Welcome to another session of Environmental Studies classes. In this session, we'll be looking into India as a mega biodiversity and the threats and the reasons of biodiversity. The learning objectives of this session will be to know about what is endangered and endemic species of India, to understand about India as a mega biodiversity, as well as to understand about the threats of biodiversity. After the session, you'll be able to understand about endangered and endemic species of India, about India as a mega biodiversity, as well as the threats of biodiversity. So first, let's look into India as a mega diversity nation. Well, the term mega means large. So mega diversity means large number of species are present in an ecosystem. Well, India is a home for varieties of plants and animals. The main reason of India being the home for a variety number of plants and animals is due to its temperature, altitude, soil, geographical areas, etc. Because of variation in all these aspects, India is providing home for a large number of plants and animal species, as well as microorganism species too. So we can say that the endemic species, India is a home for a lot many of endemic species of both plants and animals. So that is why India is known as a mega diversity nation. Now let's look into the categories. Categories in the sense, each taxon or each biographical species in the ecosystem, including animal, plant, and even microorganism, are differentiated or divided into different categories. The Red Data book is the place where it documents the endangered and endemic species of plants, animals, and fungi. So in the next slides, we'll be looking into what are the categories in which the taxons are divided. The first category is the extant category. Extant, the word itself states that it is no more. It is no more in this world. It has been extincted. It shows that there is no reasonable record of these species for the last 50 years. That is, there is completely 0% of individual or 0% of organism present or represent the species which are under the extant category. One such example is Indian cheetah. The other category is extant in the wild. Extant in the wild category in the sense it is extended in the wild, but can be seen as in the naturalized population or in the cultivated population. One such example is the mulberry silk moth. The other category is critically endangered category, wherein which the species in this category are in very much in danger or is in high risk of getting extinct. The populations of this species will be very low. At the same time, the threats faced by these species will be very high. So in the near future, there is a high possibility that these organisms present in this category can be extinct. One such example is the Asiatic lion. The next category is the endangered category. In the endangered category, it is not, we can say that it is not critically endangered, but at the same time, it is also at great danger of extinction. If at all no proper care is given to these species, there is an alarming possibility that these species at this category will go to the critically endangered category, which can be later on pushed to the category of extinct species. So there is a possibility that there is immediate danger of extinction for these categories, species of these categories. One example of species that is coming under this category is the tiger. Next is the vulnerable category. Vulnerable category is those species which is vulnerable to be critically endangered in the coming future. So these species whose population are abundant, these species whose population are abundant, but there is these species are being affected by adverse factors, which can lead to the possibility of these species being pushed to endangered and critically endangered species in the coming future. One such example is the great clam. The near threatened species, these species neither belong to the extinct, endangered or critically endangered category, but is included in the near threatened category. Why? Because if at all even though it is present abundantly, the population is present abundantly, there is a possibility that if the threats faced by them exceeds or becomes more in the future, there is a possibility that these species can also be pushed to the category of vulnerable or critically endangered, which ultimately lead to the extinction of these species. One such species that is coming under this category is the Nicobar pigeon. The other category is rare. Rare in the sense, from the word rare itself, we can say that it will be confined to or seen in a very small population. At the same time, the risk faced by it is also moderately high. So there is a possibility that in the future, if at all the risk continues in the same rate, there is a possibility that these species can move into the extinct category, as these are only seen in a very small population. So one such example is the Himalayan rafflesia. The next category is the least concerned category, that is neither included, that neither comes in the categories of the endangered, critically injured, near threatened, etc. These species will be very abundantly seen in the nature and very abundantly seen in the nature, and moreover the threats which are faced by them is manageable by them. That is why they are abundantly seen in the nature. So this was all about the categories of wherein which the taxons were divided. Now if we talk about the endangered species of India. When we talk about the endangered species of India, first we need to look into what is endangered species. I hope you remember what is endangered species. Endangered species are nothing but those species which are at high risk of being extinct or at the risk of being in danger in the coming future. So when we talk about endangered species in India, almost 47 critically endangered species are there in India. And the number of endangered species in India, in the case of mammal, accounts to about 8.86% of the total world's mammal population. So these are some of the endangered species that are seen in India, images of some endangered species that are seen in India. These are again few more images of the fauna community, and these are images from the flora community. Now when we talk about the extinct species, extinct species are nothing but they are nowhere seen in the world nowadays, because it has been completely wiped out from the nature. When we talk about the Asiatic cheetah, Asiatic cheetah is one of the extinct species. When we talk about Asiatic cheetahs, in India, Asiatic cheetahs have been extinct from 1949. Presently, we can see almost in the USSR and in the northeastern Iran, very few individuals of Asiatic cheetah. If we say the number, only in the whole world, only 12 individuals of Asiatic cheetah is seen. So you can see that it is under the critically endangered category, because in the near future it is going to be extended. No, there is no other way. And moreover, when we talk about India, it has been extended from India since 1949. So the problem, one we can say that the problem of this extension in a, if you say that later on these species can only be seen through images. Such beautiful species, when it gets extended, some or the other way, it affects the biodiversity. So it is our responsibility that we give space to each and every species in this world, a space to live. And so when we talk about Asiatic cheetah, the main cause of extinction of Asiatic cheetah are the loss of habitat due to human habitation and overgrazing of livestock. When we talk, another extinct species is the pink-headed duck. Well, the pink-headed duck is a reddish pink, eyes red-orange, and its feet dark and a red tint. Another specialty other than the pink head and neck of the duck was that it lays a perfectly spherical egg, such it appears to be an unpolished billiard balls. So this was another specialty of this bird. This bird is very shy and secretive and is rarely seen. It was seen in the northeastern areas of Orissa, Bihar, Bengal, Assam, and Manipur. During the winter season, it used to migrate towards Punjab, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. So this is the pink-headed duck. From the 1984 to 1980, under the Project Endangered Bird, a survey was conducted. In that survey, they were unsuccessful in discovering this bird. So from then onwards, this bird had got extinct. So now it can be only seen in such images. So we are unfortunately not blessed enough to see such amazing and beautiful creatures. Now let's talk about the endangered flora. So one thing you need to remember is that when I say the word endangered, you need to know what is the meaning of endangered. There's nothing but those species that are under very high risk and has a possibility of being into critically endangered or into the possibility of getting extinct in the near future, because the danger faced by them is more. When we talk about the Western flight trap, it is under the critically endangered category. It is endemic to the Western Ghats. Critically endangered as the reasons are mainly the habitat loss, and moreover preventive measures were not taken, or conservative measures were not taken seriously, because conservative measures were not taken seriously for this species. So these are the reasons wherein which it is termed, it comes under the category of critically endangered. The next is the Dazzles freria, which is a rare endangered and endemic plant. It is found in the Junar and the Purandare hills of Pune district, Maharashtra. Besides being endemic and rare, it has also been declared as world's 12 endangered species list by the IUCN. So the exporting or the collection of this plant is banned. When we talk about the endangered endangered fauna, which particularly will be talking about the animal species. The tiger, which is in the endangered species, it is of course a national animal. It is found practically throughout India, except in Rajasthan, deserts of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Punjab, and higher Himalayas. Presently, tigers are found 1,706 individuals of tiger are being found. The main reason of it being in the list of endangered species is because of poaching and loss of habitat. The Project Tiger initiative was started in 1973 for the conservation of tigers, for restoring the population of the tigers. The Asiatic lion is another species which is categorized in the critically endangered criteria. So the Asiatic lions range from the western Iran to eastern India during the 19th century. It was reported in India from Gujarat to Bihar. However, in the second half of the 20th century, it has been wiped out of its entire range except in the Sasangir of Gujarat. Presently, only 359 individuals are left in India. The main reason of it being categorized into the critically endangered category is because of a loss of habitat, poaching, overgrazing by livestock, decline in the prey species, and so on. When we talk about the Asiatic elephant, were seen in the northeastern areas and also in the Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. It is categorized in the endangered species mainly because it has been poached in an extensive manner for its tusk. As only male Asiatic elephants have tusks, the males have been heavily poached. So, Elephant Project was started by Government of India in 1972. So now let's look into another endangered species, that is the Indian wild ass. So this species is restricted to small areas in the Little Ran and other places in Gujarat. According to the statistics of 2004, only 3,900 individuals of Indian wild ass is left. So the major threats of this species is the Sura diseases. Sura diseases is a disease caused by the blood-borne parasites and is transmitted by the flies. So this diseases has affected these species, which has led to this species being in the category of endangered list. Next is the lion-tailed macaque. Lion-tailed macaque is endemic to India and is known to occur in the Western Ghats. Today, less than 2,500 individuals are surviving. And the main reason is due to modified land use of agriculture, extension of coffee and tea plantation, replacement of endemic forest trees by exotic species like eucalyptus and wattle. It has reduced the numbers of the lion-tailed macaque, and moreover, these animals are being killed for its fur and for its flesh, which has medicinal properties. Now, when talking about the threats to biodiversity, I hope you know, biodiversity is the variability and variety of life forms seen in the nature. So because of this variability, threats also differ from individual to individual species. So the main reasons of threats are the anthropogenic causes or the natural causes. Anthropogenic is nothing but human-made causes. Human-made causes include the loss of habitat, poaching, man-animal conflict, introduction to exotic species, pollution, global warming, and climatic changes. When we talk about the natural causes, it include narrow geographical area, low population, low breeding rate, and natural disasters. And we talk about the loss of habitat. Continuous increase in human population has led to increase in demand of natural resources, which has made the conversion of forest land to agricultural land. The loss of habitat also include because of the construction of industries, roads, cities. Because of conversion of forest into grazing lands have also lead to the loss of habitat. So when there is loss of habitat, there is increases the vulnerable of inbreeding, which in turn loses the gene pool and leads to high mortality, infant mortality rate, and susceptible to environmental changes, which ultimately leads to the extinction of species. So now when we talk about the other threat that is poaching, it is the illegal trafficking and killing of wildlife. So it is mainly, we can say that it is mainly done for profit or for money because of the greed of humans. It has been mainly done. So animals are killed for their fur, skin, tusk, hair, horn, etc. So in places like Tibet and China's, animals are killed for delicacies, and moreover, some of them claim that the parts of animals have medicinal properties, and for all these things, animals are being killed, illegally killed at a very large scale, which again leads to its extinction. So these are some of the images of animal poachings that has been done. You can see how each part of the animals are being taken mainly to satisfy human greed and satisfaction. When we talk about the animal man conflicts, so we humans, for for our habitat, we make use of the forest lands, convert them into places where we can live, so which lead to the loss of habitat. So a number of species are get losing or lose their natural home or habitat. So when they come back to their natural home, it is such a way that they're entering to a human territory. So when these animals, the wild animals, enter into a human territory, there is of course a conflict between man and animal happens. So either a man gets killed or an animal gets killed. When animal gets killed in such a manner, it reduces the species population of that particular species. So in this way, this is also a threat to the biodiversity, the man-animal conflict. In talking about the pollution, of course, pollution such as oil spills, biomagnification, noises, plastic accumulation, algal bloom, and heat, all are causes of pollution. Wherein which when a pollution is occurs at a particular biodiversity, it reduces the normal mechanism in which an organism can live, or the normal mechanism in which the organism can grow. If at all the stress or strain is more in that particular biodiversity, it gets affected to the species or organism that are living there. If at all they are not able to withstand these threats, it ultimately leads to the death of these species, which ultimately can lead to the extinction of these species. So these are some of the images that shows how pollution can affect, how pollution act as a threat to the biodiversity. When we talk about the introduction of exotic or invasive species, exotic species in this, those species that comes from the outside. So when outside species is being brought to a local environment or to a native environment, the native species or the local species starts to have a competition. There will be a competition between the native species as well as the exotic species, which ultimately can wipe out the entire population, native population. So some exotic species like the eucalyptus Australian acacia and the glitzidia were introduced in India for afforestation. So when there is a negative impact, at the same time there is a positive impact also. But but we must make sure that it doesn't affect the native species, or else it is of course a threat to the biodiversity. When we talk about the global warming and climatic changes, as temperature increases in the recent decades, certain species began breeding and migrating earlier than expected. Other species found that the geographic ranges of numerous species had shifted poles ward or moved to the higher elevation. It is nothing but earlier those areas couldn't be accommodated by the species due to its high temperature. But nowadays, due to this global warming and climatic changes, the severity of temperatures in these areas have reduced, which has made the species to occupy those areas. So, and moreover, due to global warming and climatic changes, it has also led to decline in the breeding population also. So the other anthropogenic factor that is that leads to threat to biodiversity is the coral bleaching. So due to increase in temperature, there is bleaching in the coral reefs. We have seen this effect in the Great Barrier Reefs across Australia from 1980s to 2006. While most of the areas were recovered, those areas, coral reefs, which were severely damaged, there was 90% of mortality rate in those areas. So in the images, you can see how coral reefs have been affected by high temperature, that is the bleached effect in which they are seen. So you might think how that coral reefs can be beneficial or important in a biodiversity. Well, the importance of coral reefs is it protects the coastal lines from damaging effects of wave action and tropical storms. It provides habitat and shelter for many marine organisms. It is a source for nitrogen and other nutrients in the marine food chain, and also it assists in carbon and nitrogen fixing cycle. So even though it is a very small part that is seen in biodiversity, it plays these many roles. So it shows that each and every species in the nature has a role to play, and indeed those roles are important to sustain our lives. So the only thing that we need to keep in mind is that the nature is not the home of us humans alone. It is a home for a wide variety of species. So we must allow them to live. Then only there will be a sustainability of life. So saying all these things, I would like to conclude my today's session. Thank you and have a wonderful day.